Welcome to Midwest Matters. I'm Joe Galvan, Regional Administrator overseeing the 6 states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. I'll be your host for this series of conversations that highlight both the initiatives of Secretary Ben Carson and some of the best practices that we're seeing throughout the Midwest region from our partners and collaborators. Today, I'll be talking to Brian Bernardoni. Brian is the founder and managing partner of Aurelius Public Affairs and founding partner of Groundswell Media. He also serves as a Region 5 HUD Affordable Housing Task Force chairperson. Brian previously served for 17 years as the Senior Director of Governmental Affairs and Public Policy at the Chicago Association of Realtors, and he was the Executive Director at the University Village Association. He is a native Chicagoan and is regarded as a powerful voice and thought leader on Chicago business issues, including real estate and public policy. Welcome, Brian.
Joe, what we've put together is a great team of stakeholders, and the staff at HUD has really been at the top of their game in Region 5 and helping us pursue some really interesting approaches to solving some of the issues as it relates to affordable housing. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure having you, Brian. So last summer, we convened partners at a conference in Chicago and formed the first Affordable Housing Task Force, and you graciously accepted the chair, non-paying position. Thank you. And as a follow-up on the discussion from that session, we're holding roundtables throughout the region with various stakeholders, including public housing agencies, nonprofits, and developers. We've had 3 sessions thus far, one in Indianapolis, Detroit, Columbus. We have 3 more to go in the other 3 states. Brian, can you share with us and our listeners here what the objectives have been at these roundtables and some of the current challenges the industry is facing in creating affordable housing?
Sure. Affordable housing has been a concern of HUD since HUD was incepted. And I think what Secretary Carson and what you have done, Joe, has really put a different kind of highlight to this problem by actually looking at the problem from what are the real causes or the root causes to the problems with affordable housing. The approach that we wanted to take was pretty pragmatic. The whole idea was to put together a group of stakeholders, both from the for-profit side and the nonprofit side, in one room in each state within the region, and talk to them about what was going on. And I have to say that both the market side and the nonprofit side, and those were separate meetings, all had a lot of the same concern: material costs, time it takes to process, land costs, and all of the policies that are attached to it. And I think what the Secretary should be aware of, and I think what we've learned, at least in the first 3 states, those again being Michigan, Ohio, and in Indiana, I think we've learned that local and state regulations are still a big part of the problem, that we don't have enough, I think, collaboration, we don't have enough communication, and I don't think we have enough coordination sometimes of the programs. I think a lot of the federal programs set a very high plateau for what we're supposed to have and what the goals of the administration are. But when it starts trickling down at the local level, I think we're seeing conflicting ideas of how these things should work. And what's happening is you have both nonprofit developers and for-profit developers kind of going, we all want to build affordable housing. We all want to make it more accessible. We believe that there are programs and approaches that we can do this with, but we keep bumping up into a lot of the same problems. I think what was also striking was where there might be issues of difference in philosophy about how we get there. I can narrow them down to issues about tax policy. I think affordable requirement ordinances have definitely come up on both sides. Zoning requirements came up on both sides. Building code came up on both sides. But it was surprising that both the nonprofit and the for-profit side also said that Davis-Bacon is an issue. I mean, we know that. It's not a secret.
And you're absolutely right. The 3 states, the 3 convenings we've had have been eye-opening. Everybody has the same mission: for-profit, not-for-profit, providing affordable housing. How do we get there is a whole different methodology, but we'll work these things out. And we were on a roll, man. We were, we did 3 states. We had 3 more planned, and then we had COVID-19 hit. And COVID-19, there are a lot of things that have occurred in terms of housing forbearance and making sure that our lenders are taking care of the people they serve. Things have changed a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about the issues as to what we're going to be looking for now that COVID-19 and the way of doing business going forward, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a profound change because, and unfortunately, we're still in the middle of this. So the administration saw the problem that could happen with foreclosure, where they could act, they have acted. And again, this is in the CARES Act. I think Secretary Carson and Joe, you have stood up with various mayors across the region talking about the issues of foreclosure and forbearance. And I think the efforts that you guys have put forth has been considerable, and I think are the starting point to even larger conversations across the marketplace on how to deal with these issues as they come into fold. Getting the market to come back and respond is going to be more of a challenge. I think what we're going to see is we're seeing the beginning signs at the commercial and retail side of real stress. On the residential rental side, I'm still hearing reports about 85 to 90% of folks are paying their rent. Most people are paying their mortgages and things along those lines. But on the commercial side, on the retail side, those numbers are not that good. Housing goes where there's good commercial, where there's good retail, where there are job opportunities. And the path forward is going to be a challenge to shore up those businesses. But we have great resolve in this country. And hopefully the administration in future CARES Acts are going to see what that need looks like to help protect the small retailer. And from that, I think housing grows as a result. It's what we learned, I think, also throughout COVID is that we're all interrelated. One sector gets hit, another sector gets hit. In order for neighborhoods to thrive and survive moving forward past COVID, we're going to have to find ways in job creation to secure our commercial and our retail corridors so that people have jobs to go to and that neighborhoods have the frameworks to survive post-COVID.
Brian, you're absolutely right and on target. When the first round of funding came out from the CARES Act, me and my team, we talked to, I want to say, over 30 elected officials across the Midwest, large city mayors. And it was all the same. Food pantries were being inundated with requests. We were trying to just respond to stop the bad forces of the COVID-19 from taking over this country. So you're right. Now we have to go plan forward. We have to help the businesses move forward. We're going to have to help stimulate development within those places that we call opportunity zones. Secretary Carson, he chairs the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council. The opportunity zones, they're made to stimulate economic development and job creation by incentivizing long-term capital investments in low-income neighborhoods. And, Brian, back in 2019, we at HUD, we issued a notice that introduced incentives for property owners applying for certain loans with FHA multifamily mortgage insurance for properties that are located in qualified opportunity zones. Now, there were 2 main takeaways from all this, and one is that HUD realized that we had to designate specialized senior underwriters in each region across the country, Region 5 being the best, of course. and we had to process these things to make sure that the mortgage insurances for these properties and these qualified opportunity zones were done in a timely fashion. So, and the second thing, we had to make sure that the applicants FHA Section 221D for Section 223F, but the mortgage insurance programs for these properties located in these qualified opportunity zones would be eligible for reduced application fees. Can you tell me what you've been hearing on the ground about the industry and about these incentives?
In the Midwest, it's kind of like the Midwest. It's a little bit more restrained. It's a little slower paced, even though there's definitely a need. What we're finding is that it still comes down to the same problems with affordable housing. local and state regulations are bumping up into some of the goals of the opportunity zones. And I think my passion for opportunity zones links into a couple different things. I think it needs to be extended. Are there things that can be fixed? Yeah, but I think part of it has to be, again, the need for more collaboration, communication, and coordination with locals and states, so we understand that there's a federal infusion of opportunity, a pathway for dollars, if we don't bungle it with local regulations and state regulations that can block up or get into the way of the program. The fact that HUD has opened it up for housing is exciting. The fact that they've got a fast track it says that Secretary Carson sees what we see, which is housing is a priority, affordable housing is a priority, and we're going to make sure it gets done.
Excellent. This brings up the last question I want to put out there for you. We're running out of time, but it's regarding our pilot program with the low-income housing tax credits for new construction and substantial rehab. It's a LIHTC program. So we've expanded the initiative. Can you talk a little bit about HUD's commitment to providing LIHTC and affordable housing?
What we've seen with LIHTC is exciting. I think to the credit of Mayor Lightfoot and Commissioner Navarra, at least in the city of Chicago, those tax credits are highly competitive. There are folks who are really doing some innovative things. I think we've launched 11 new developments in the city of Chicago. What the federal government has done by expanding those opportunities is absolutely critical, because it is a critical tool, if not the biggest or only tool for developers to really get their hands on needed capital. Again, with that said, what we're seeing is, because it's so competitive, certain projects don't fit within the fold. In Chicago, I think the more the niche has been for smaller projects. But I think, again, if we collaborate, we coordinate, and we communicate with each other and look at what those federal goals are and what those big doors that are wide open for funds to be available, turn into fruition, turn into bricks and mortars, and turn into homes, HUD's mission is secured, and so are the local housing authorities, and the developers' goals are assured.
Thank you, Brian. And now I'm going to put you to the test on this one. 1 minute to summarize where we go from here.
I can tell you that we're doing innovative things in Region 5. We're seeing the whole region, urban, suburban, rural. I'd like to see us repeat the program, finish our job, get our report to Secretary Carson. I also want to see us start taking a look at Davis-Bacon. Secretary Carson should know very well that Region 5's team, whether they're statewide, the statewide facilitators, to your leadership, to your staff that you have, are working tirelessly. They're working with creativity. They're working with vision. They're working with leadership. They're working with commitment to making sure that HUD's mission is secured in our region. I'm very proud of the efforts. I'm very proud of the leadership that you've displayed, and Secretary Carson has displayed, with the amount of empathy and the amount of vision he's put to make sure that people stay in their homes, that neighborhoods are redeveloped, and that the United States grows despite what's happening with COVID. It's been an honor.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for joining us here today to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the region. Thank you for your work as chair of the Midwest Affordable Housing Task Force. I look forward to the next few months moving this all forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Up next, we'll be talking to David Northern, the Executive Director of the Champaign Housing Authority. Thank you, and look forward to talking to you next time.